I'm Bryan, and welcome back to Vinyl Paints. I've noticed on a few sports channels they've been doing this thing called What's in the Bag, just a quick video that goes through their equipment and talks about what they'll be using for the upcoming season. And I thought, what a great idea. I should do my own version of that called What's in the Desk, and do a quick overview of all the equipment I'll be using for 2024 and into 2025. Last year I ordered the starter kit from Chromacolor, and it came with a fine tip OHP pen by Stabilo. When I was looking it up to see if they had anything even finer, I did find these super fine pens that are 0.4, and they actually have different colors. I haven't had a chance to use them, but as soon as I do, I'll let you know how they work. One of the things I've heard is that Sumi ink works just as well as that acrylic ink that I've been using. So I bought Yasu Tomo Sumi ink, and I'm gonna do a couple of tests on it and I'll see how it performs. Be on the lookout, that video should be out soon. As of right now, Speedball has not been dethroned and it is my most used ink. I use the Super Black. It uses an acrylic pigmented ink, and so far it's performed the best out of all the inks I've tried. I've really moved away from paint markers, but I still use the Posca paint pen and the Sharpie paint pen occasionally, especially when the thickness of the line isn't as important. I still really enjoy using them, but I have been getting into finer details lately and don't have as much opportunity to use them anymore. And of course, as you guys have been seeing in the videos, I've been using a lot of dip pens lately. I use that with the Super Black, I use that with paint. It's probably become my favorite way of doing line work right now. And this one, what you're seeing right here, is the G-nib. I do have a few different ones I'll show later in the video, but I probably think that once you feel confident working on a cell, you'll probably make your way over to a dip pen. And this is the Stabilo OH pen that came with the Chromacolour kit. And what you're seeing right now is what I'll be using for my inking and my line art. As you can see, it's a wide variety, but I probably use every single thing here. This right here are some of the nibs that come with the Speedball kit that I bought. I honestly like the classic one and the G-nib. Those are pretty much the only ones I use, but I do have the other ones in case I ever need it. I kind of glossed over this part because I don't usually show the drawing process, but these are some of the prism colors that I use. It's got the non-photo blue, blacks, purples, whatever you need in order to get your shading right. And then of course this is my solution, which is usually distilled water. I just bought an eyedropper container from Amazon. But because I draw all over the place and usually don't have them around, they don't get used as much as I would like. What I did buy was from Cartoon Supplies. I bought these punches that you can just kind of tape onto certain other cell sheets that act as a bypass if you don't have a cell punch. You'll see that I have the Acme pegs on the top and on the bottom. That means that there's like the rectangular one on the sides and a circle in the middle. And then I have the rounded pegs, or the 3 round in the middle. Originally, my port key was actually designed like that because I thought it would be the easier one to get. And it turns out actually that Acme punch is probably the way to go, but I still use both. I've started to use Acme paper for my line art. I usually don't draw on it, but I do transfer the image onto one before I start to paint it. I've really been liking this cell sheet that you're seeing right here. This is the Chromacolor one. This is 10F size, I believe. I should have probably ordered a larger size. 10F is a little bit small, especially if you're just using it as one-offs, not necessarily animating a sequence. I don't know what thickness it is, but I find that there's very little warping with it in terms of when you put paint on it or if you over put paint on it. This is my preferred one of the punched ones I use. I like it because it's a little bit thicker and you don't get as much warping with the paint. This one here is the Lightfoot Ltd. I also think they're cartoonsupplies.com, and this is the 12F cell size. It's a good size. The 12F is definitely the way to go. I would recommend it over the 10F. I did find this one a little bit harder to work with. I used it for the Nightcrawler video, and if you remember the Ace Ventura Pikachu Detective Pikachu crossover, there was some minor warping on the cell where I used a little bit too much paint, but this was before I really started to dilute my paint. I think that was more user error than it was actually the cell. I also don't know if this is any different, but this is the other one that actually calls itself an acetate cell. So maybe it gets bonus points for being classic. The final one I use, this is the one I actually use the most often, and this is the Duralar Wet Media Film. It performs very well. It comes in different sizes, so if I want to do a larger piece, it's easy to do. The downside to it is that it doesn't have, it's not punched, so I have to use those paper punches on it in order to be able to use it in my Portkey. But in general, I use this one a lot because I tend to make oversized pieces, and it's just a great option. Sometimes you have to do things just for fun. I have a Portkey and it works very well. I found this one on Facebook Marketplace and I love it. This is the Chromacolor. I don't even know if they make this one anymore. I think it's only for 12F cell size or under, but whenever I can, I use it. I just enjoy the look of it. One of the most important things isn't in my desk, but on my desk, and that's my portable animation desk. I bought it from animationdesk.com. Colin was the one who helped me out. He made this happen. I was on a tight deadline and he really helped me out. So it turns out I'm a sucker for rare media. I stumbled across this paper at an art supply store, and it was black watercolor paper. And my head just exploded with possible ideas. I've actually decided that I'm going to try to paint some of my own backgrounds, and I want to have a different feel to it. So I figured, hey, why not try using black watercolor paper and try doing things a little bit differently. I don't know if this is going to work, but I really want to give it a try because I just have so many ideas that I think would be really cool with this, especially nighttime scenes. Now I think we need to talk about essentials. Whoops. Toothpicks, absolutely mandatory. You'll use them, you'll need them, you'll go through a lot of them. Q-tips for cleaning, as well as makeup pads that are a little bit stronger, more durable, absolutely necessary. I didn't film it, but you'll also need alcohol to help clean up some of the mess you make. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing backgrounds as well. This is something I bought for that. It's called the Original Incredible Nib. I don't know how it works. I've never used it before. I can't talk to you whether it's good or not, but I bought something and this is what they recommended that I use for it. And this is why I bought the Incredible Nib. This is a drawing gum, and essentially what I'm going to be doing is I'll be using this to mat out certain areas of the black watercolor paper so that I can kind of leave designs and space in there. So there's going to be a lot of trial and error with this, but I'm looking forward to it. I don't think I'm enough of a connoisseur to really tell you which ones are good, which ones are bad. I only can tell you if they work for me. And this 5-piece US miniature set works for me. I just needed a finer tip on them, and these ones are fairly fine. And as I've kind of progressed, I found that I'm using more miniature paintbrushes than I am actually using acrylic paintbrushes, or I guess larger paintbrushes. This 5-piece set, I've actually used like 3 of them and I use them quite often. This is the original brush that I used when I first started. As you can see, it's a lot thicker than the new ones that I've started to use. I don't use it as much anymore because I find that I need smaller brushes because I've started to do more details, deal with smaller objects. And I really actually do like the angled brushes. I actually find it easier to see what I'm doing and stay within the lines with it. I'm just finding it harder and harder to find places to use it now. I know this feels like cheating, but I've actually started to use the nib quite often as well to put paint on, not just on the line art side, but actually in the small detailed corners. So even though it's already been shown, I'm putting it down again. That's right, it appears twice on the list. The nib dip pen, good for line art and also painting. I recently started using the silver ultra mini brushes. They're very similar to the miniature brushes that I showed earlier. The only main difference is that these ones are angled, which is actually a huge benefit because I actually do like the angled brushes a little bit better. And it's kind of like a preference that I've started to develop as I've continued to paint. The one thing I should say as well though, is that I don't always take out all the brushes at once. I'll kind of use one, and until I end up in a spot where I need another one, they all kind of remain in the box until I'm like, oh, okay, I need a smaller brush, or this brush is no good anymore. All right, let's get on with it. Everyone's here for the paint talk, so let's talk paint. This is Flashy by Lafranc. Honestly, I'm not going to spend too long talking about it. I've been doing some more tests and using it on occasion, so I can recommend it, but I have been using it, so I am including it in this video, but I still haven't 100% figured out how to work it. This is Chromacolor. It's one of my favorite paints to use. I use it regularly. I've already talked extensively about it, so I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I pretty much use it on every painting that I do. And this is Toon Tones This is the other paint that I use almost all the time. You've heard me talk about it already. It's a great product. This in the Chromacolor should get you through most situations you'll need. If you combine the Toon Tones with the Chromacolor, you have a pretty good collection of paints to get you started in cel painting. I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but this is Mungvo. These are watercolors that were recommended to me. I mentioned that I was going to do some backgrounds on black watercolor paper, so these are the watercolors that I'll be using. I haven't used them yet, and I'm a little bit intimidated. I was never very good at watercolor, but Mungvo, they're on the desk. And now we've come to the unboxing part of this video. This is Nicker poster colors. Poster colors are kind of like a gouache watercolor thing, but they're kind of their own little thing. For anyone who has studied animation or read a lot of books on anime, the name Nicker should be familiar, as this is the color that is synonymous with Studio Ghibli. This is the go-to background paint for Studio Ghibli. I'll be trying to use this as well as the watercolor. I bought the 24 pack. I know it's just paint, but I was maybe it was just the history overwhelming me. I don't know, but I was really nervous opening this box up. Yeah, I'll let you enjoy watching me struggle to open this thing because I was so nervous. I don't know why I was so nervous to open up 24 paints. And I think I'm even more so than nervous. I'm very intimidated by this entire process. I never really had any grand designs of becoming a background painter or even like a full-fledged painter. So I've never used poster colors. I've never really done watercolor either. So there's a lot of question marks with this. But I figured if I was going to try my hand at doing my own backgrounds, I feel like Nicker, Studio Ghibli, they're kind of like one of the big names out there in terms of ones you want to try to replicate or at least try to do something in their style. And they're such a historic band that I figured, hey, you know what? If you're going to do it, let's go all in. And what you're looking at here are the paints that I'll be using for 2024 and into 2025. Of course, I'm always on the hunt for new paints and anything else to keep this amazing art form alive.
In today's story,
Vinyl paints
had a problem. He lost his confidence in himself because he had once failed. Well, now we all fail sometimes, but we should never be afraid to try again. And we should always keep believing in ourselves. As the old saying goes, if at first you don't succeed, try again.
Thanks for watching the video. I'm Bryan, and this is Vinyl Paints.